What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hope everybody's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this. I know I am. Boston is blowing out the Heat right now, and I want to give a lot of credit to Marcus Smart because we saw how big of an impact he makes from the difference in this team from game one to game two. And obviously, they make open shots or whatnot. They defend a little bit better, whatnot. But I want to get into Marcus, and I'll get into his defense later because I think we all understand Marcus Smart's one of the best defenders in the entire league. He won Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. But what he does for this team, he is the X factor for this team in terms of their playoff success, in terms of how well they play in general. Yeah, you have Tatum, you have Brown, but I think what he might be the second most important piece in a lot of games. I think Tatum is always the most important piece generally. Like, I think that's the number one guy. Sure, Brown can have big games or whatnot, but I think it goes Tatum, and then it really can alternate between Smart and Brown because I think what Marcus does is a little bit different than Jaylen. Jaylen's more of just kind of a scoring, rebounding, give you some perimeter defense. That's kind of his game, and some decent shooting on most nights. Marcus's game is like, I'm going to set you guys up. I'm going to spread the floor. I'm going to defend at a top 3 level. I'm going to be able to drive. I'm going to be able to create my own shot if I have to. Like, he does a lot of different things, and it's beautiful. I think the difference in game one and game two, though, was him playing, because the third quarter of game one, Boston just lost all of their intensity, and he's really the heart and soul of that entire team. So when he's not there, they were clearly lacking it. And I think the second, probably maybe it might even be the biggest difference here, is he puts everybody in the positions to succeed. Everybody goes back into their natural role where they're more comfortable. Tatum is more comfortable operating, as the out of the elbow, and not when he's facing the entire defense in front of him, when he's at the logo trying to create everything. Sure, he can do it. We all know he can. But when Marcus is, doing that entry pass to the elbow, and now Tatum's got to make the first read, and it just simplifies the entire game for your star player, which it's really hard to get role players that can do that, because think of how many role players simplify the game for star players around the league and make it a lot easier on them. There's not a ton that'll come off the top of your head. And like I said earlier, it gives them that third creator that they were desperately missing in that third quarter of game one, where, if Tatum doesn't have it going or Jaylen Brown doesn't have it going, they have somebody else that can initiate the offense and get them in flow, because they were really disjointed in game one. Game two, they've been collectively as a unit just all on the same page. And I think he has like 20 something points right now. I think he had like 21 points and like 8 assists last I saw. And that's, along with the great defense. So I think that is just a complete game changer. And that's why I think he's the most important X factor for Boston in order to have a better chance of winning this series. Because I personally have Boston winning the series. Would I be stunned if Miami won it? No, I wouldn't, because Jimmy Butler has been fantastic. Bam Adebayo is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They have shooters. They've got some great bench scoring with Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo. They kind of have a little bit of everything. So no, I would not be surprised if Miami won this. But Boston has, I think, the best player in the series in Jayson Tatum. And then they have, I think, the most important and probably the best X factor, because I don't think anybody on the Heat outside of Jimmy can do what Marcus does in terms of spreading the floor, defending the best player, making the right reads, creating his own shot at times. He's not going to do it all the time. I don't think that they have that guy in particular in terms of all of that being bundled into one. That's why I think Marcus is so damn important. And I think the biggest key for this series of him being the X factor is, he's the best guy to put on Jimmy Butler, most likely. Yeah, Jimmy's going to get his, and that's, he's a star, so you expect that to happen. But I think Marcus has a lot better chance to make it hard. And then it also makes sure that guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't have to expend a lot of their energy defending a guy like Jimmy, because now those guys like Tatum and Brown can be more focused on helping on defense and reading passing lanes as opposed to getting physical with Jimmy, because that's a challenge. And Marcus is like, he's the dirty work guy. He fights for offensive rebounds. He fights for defensive rebounds. He is combating Jimmy. He'll probably go at Bam at some point in this series. Like, there's just an edge that he provides the team. And I think obviously with his defense, it gives them that other guy to switch, where they can really switch with all five and not really have to worry about it when they have a lineup of like Smart, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, either of the Williamses, and Horford. Like, you have 5 guys that you can switch on to pretty much anybody for the most part, and you can live with the results. As to when Smart's not there and you have somebody like Pritchard, Derek White's a pretty decent defender, but you have Derek White in there, it just makes everything a little bit more complicated. And, guys, when you have the first lineup that I mentioned, nobody can get hunted. for the most part. Like, yeah, so you're going to have to pick your poison on who you're going to go at. But then, like, nobody is going to get hunted and you're going to be like, man, I really wish he wasn't on the floor. Like, they're all going to be competitive defensively. And I think that's because Smart gives them that flexibility of being somebody that can guard a bigger guy if he has to, and is obviously a lockdown perimeter defender, makes life a nightmare for anybody that's in front of him. I love this guy's game. Been a fan of him for like 6 years now. He's a stud at what he does, and I think he's one of the best role players in the entire league. And I think he's going to be the biggest X factor in this series, because he's going to be the one that is in charge of when things kind of go crazy, just mellowing things down, or when your team is not as juiced or energized as they need to be. He's going to be the guy that gets them pumped up when he's on the floor. You can do that from the bench like he did in game one, but it doesn't have the same impact when you're out there sweating, diving on the floor. Like, that energy is more infectious when you're on the floor with that kind of guy, rather than when he's sitting on the sideline. It's like, yeah, you're sitting there, you're not really doing too much. It doesn't change what I have out here. But when he's on the floor, it just changes the whole dynamic of the defense first, and especially the offense. And I don't think people really respect the offense enough, because, yeah, his shot selection from three can be a little crazy sometimes, but like, when he gives you all that other stuff, it's like, you can't like tame him. You can't like have him on a short leash on offense. So you got to let him play. You got to let him, be himself. And I think that's like he's a wild card. He's an X factor. And I think he's going to be the second or third most important player for Boston in this series. And Celtics fans, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments who you think the second or third most important player will be, because they've got a few different guys I think you can argue for this. And if you want to interact with me on Twitter, I'm going to put it like right about here somewhere. I've been live tweeting some games and stuff like that. I tweeted today that, I don't think Miami has a great chance if Boston hits 95% of its threes like they did in the first quarter, it felt like. So, if you want to interact with me there, feel free. I'm always up for it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please like the video. Marcus Smart, you are an X factor, and I love watching you play, bro. That is all. I am done here. Peace.